everyone. Good evening. All right, fantastic. So in my next 1 hour session or so, my aim is to share with you all 24 metrics to measure social media ROI. Social media what? Come on, wake up lah. Okay, so a little bit of background. My name is Marcus. I run a social media agency called Social Media Hub. And previously, I used to run my own e-commerce company called TechZone, based in Singapore, selling Apple accessories, until that company was acquired by a private equity company. And after it got acquired, I built that business solely. A lot of my traffic came from Facebook. So after that, my next venture was to start an agency and to help other brands to become category leaders through social. So these are some of our clients. Qatar Airways being known one of what we're most famous for generating 1.1 million of ticket sales. We have some learning lessons throughout running our agency for the last 2.5 years. One example would be the F&B industry. So we realized that we don't really work very well with the F&B industry. So here are some of our what we're most famous for, Qatar Airways. If you'd like to have a more case study on this, it's over here, the link, and we can have a separate offline conversation. After that, another client that we work with is this client called Freshcon. Sorry, the resolution is a bit weird here. How many of you heard of Freshcon, the brand? The contact lens brand? Show of hands. 1, 2. All right. And one of our favorite clients, Waco. So essentially, when we are running an agency as a social media agency, we realize that top management only care about 3 things when they top management usually care about 3 things when they run the company. Either increase in revenue, decrease in marketing expense, or corporate governance. And because we're not in the last one, so we are always in the first 2. We are either always in the business of decreasing marketing expense or increasing revenue, especially through social media. And the way that we approach social media is through a framework, a step-by-step framework, meaning to say that everything that we do is always a step-by-step thing on how we approach social media. So we have this system called the C-Cube system. It's essentially a 3-step model called listen, grow, engage. And every segment has 3 sub-segments into it. That's why it's called the C-Cube system. So the first thing to approach social media as management right now, so assuming all of you are upper management, and the first thing you need to do before you even get on social media is to identify strategic objective. So what are 3 different strategic objectives? It's number 1, brand awareness. Number 2, sales. And number 3, consumer retention. So no matter what you do on social media, whether it's to increase traffic or do whatever, it's always either one of these 3 things that your strategic objective could be. Right? And then the next thing, which the most of what I'm going to be talking about, is measuring social media ROI. That means identifying key performance indicators before you even get on the social media bandwagon. So for that, we have our own framework of measuring social media ROI, 24 metrics in total, based on the 3 key objectives that we measure: brand awareness, sales, and consumer retention. And throughout my next 30 minutes to 45 minutes of presentation, I'll be talking to you a lot about these 24 metrics and how it applies to your business and to your organization. Clear so far? Any questions? No? Cool. So the first aim could be, say for example, you need product awareness or brand awareness from social media, right? So to ask yourself this simple question, what is brand awareness? Can anybody answer me that question? What is brand awareness?
Do I get a book?
No, you don't get a book. Anybody wants to answer the question, what is brand awareness?
Exposure of your product.
Sorry?
Exposure of your product.
Exposure of product, really good. So Wikipedia defines it as like this, and I don't want to read this out. I think all of you can read as faster than how I can enunciate. But essentially, brand awareness under this model called a DAGMAR model, D-A-G-M-A-R. This was conceptualized by some really old advertising guy, and he identified four ways of measuring brand awareness, and we kind of have our own spin around it, and which I'll talk about it in just a second. So brand awareness, going back up to the part, there are three phases to it. First phase is what we call exposure, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Then there's second phase, engagement, and then there's last phase, influence. And every facet of that brand awareness has a different effect on your consumer's mind share. So brand awareness, exposure. For example, if you do print ads, bus ads, like these are two photos, because I come from Singapore, so these photos are from Singapore. Anybody from Singapore? Woo! Cool. Alright, so these are like when we do traditional print ads like this, bus ads, print ads, like people will know about the brand, people know about the product, but they don't really know what's the benefits of it. You know what I mean? So they just know that your brand exists. So this same effect, this level of mind share on your consumer's mind, how do you achieve it on social media? And one of the metrics we use is, of course, number of Facebook likes for that. Because when somebody likes your Facebook page, essentially it's like them giving you their email address. They like your page, but they don't really know anything about your brand or your products or your services if they just like your page. That one simple action. So the number of likes is equivalent to that one way you want to measure for traditional media. The other metric we use is called total reach. So what is total reach? So how many of you manage your own Facebook pages by a show of hands? 1, 2, some more? How many of you manage your own Facebook pages? All right, so you manage your own Facebook pages. So if you log into Facebook Insights, you see something like this, right? How many of you have seen this before? 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. So how many of you are on Facebook, by the way? Okay, I'm just kidding. Right, so if you log into Facebook Insights, you click on reach, you will see these numbers, total reach and your number of reach of content. So essentially what these numbers mean is the number of people who have essentially seen the content that you've published on your Facebook page. Because if they've seen your content, again, it doesn't mean that they understand or they comprehend about your products, but they just know that they know that your content is there, and that's it. They move on to other pieces of content. So they just see your brand name, okay, whatever, brand ABC, you're there. And then they move on to other things that they see in their newsfeed. But this is essentially one metric you can measure with your traditional media. The other metric you can measure is, this is beyond Facebook, like YouTube or your website, for example. This guy on the left looks very familiar. I wonder who is he. But, so, like a number of views on your social content is another way to measure that same effect, that little exposure mind share on social media. So this is another metric we use. And one of the other metrics you want to measure is called cost per impression. Cost per what? Cost per what? Right. So cost per impression essentially means how much are you as an organization is paying to reach out to 1,000 eyeballs. So you want to measure this, like say for example, this is a report that we do for one of our clients. Like they advertise in traditional magazines like Clio, Her World, 8 Days. These magazines are Singapore-based magazines. And this is their print run. That means the amount of reach that the magazine is getting. Right, and then you do that and then you calculate what's the advertising cost to do a one-page advertisement. And then from there, you know what's your cost per impression. That means how much are you as a brand paying to reach out to 1,000 eyeballs, right? And then the same thing you want to measure at the end of your 1 month of Facebook marketing campaign. You want to measure your total number of reach, which is what we talked about earlier. Metric number, right? And then from there, you measure your cost per impression based on the number of money that you've been spending or man hours that you're spending on your Facebook page, or rather the ad spend and all those. And then you calculate what we call an earned media value. Now, I'll talk about what's earned media value in a second, but show of hands, does anybody know what this is familiar with this metric, earned media value? So, earned media value is a metric which PR agencies use to calculate what is the value of an article. Because essentially on the internet, there's three forms of media which is being discussed today in Wee John's panel session. They talk about earned media, owned media, and paid media. Paid media means you run ads, owned media means your own Facebook page, earned media means you earn that organic conversation. Right. So for example, if you are a brand like I was having a conversation with a representative from Royal Selangor. Is she here? Oh, she's there. All right. Hi. So, for example, if Royal Selangor, what do they sell? What does Royal Selangor sells? Sorry? Yeah, so if they sell all those kind of fancy, cool stuff, right? So if a newspaper were to write an article about this product in the editorial section, not the ads section, but the editorial section, so it's considered what we call earned media value. In the traditional PR industry, is times 3 the value of the paid ad. And then from there, you calculate your total value from fans, and then that's how you calculate your ROI based on your cost per impression. So this essentially is how you measure, these 4 metrics are how you measure the exposure for brand awareness. That means that little bit of mind share which you can get in your consumers, that means they just understand what is your brand, and they know that your brand exists. That's all. But if you want to go down to a deeper level called engagement, meaning to say that they understand more about your products, your services that you're offering. And this, in a traditional form, we call it activation campaigns. Anybody know what an activation campaign is? Nobody? All right, so what an activation campaign is, you all know what a roadshow is, right? Right, so roadshows are essentially similar to activation campaigns. Why? Because when somebody walks up to your booth, for example, or to your roadshow, they start asking you about your products. So you start explaining about your products from there. And then from there, they understand, oh, I know you sell this, and I know the benefits of this is XYZ, for example. So, like I said, the traditional form of engagement is what we call activation campaign, and the cost of it would start from a few $1,000s and above. For example, Dove here did a campaign when they rented out the whole basement of a shopping mall and started educating consumers why they should be buying Dove. And then APB did a campaign for Guinness, the beer Guinness. How many of you like to drink Guinness? How many of you like to drink beer? Huh? Nobody likes to drink beer? Right? So they did a campaign in a Singapore mall called Paint the Town Black. So all these are activation campaigns where they collect email addresses, where they started having conversations with consumers, directly from brand to consumers, and getting the consumers to understand more about the products. So which is why over here on the bottom right, you see the mind share is a little bit more than exposure. Right? So one way to measure engagement is this thing called Facebook, the people talking about this score. Anyone familiar with this? People talking about this? In short, we call this PTAT, P-T-A-T. So what does PTAT means? One way to measure it is, again, going back to your Facebook insights. These are the number of people talking about this on your Facebook page and on the content. But people talking about this essentially means one of these things. Like either they write on your wall, you publish content, they like it, they comment, they have conversations with the brand. Because how much does it cost traditionally for brands to have conversations with their consumers on a traditional level? This is where you measure it on roadshows, for example. How many inquiries do you get after? How many people has your salespeople approached and have conversations with consumers? So the same thing on social media. You want to measure how much does it cost to get one person talking to your brand. right? And then another form of measuring engagement is what we call retweets, because you are forwarding that message to your friends on Twitter, for example, like AirAsia, where they have a promotion and I forward it to my friends because I understand what the product is here. And then if I understand what the product is, I'm sharing with my friends, then I'm retweeting. Then I'm essentially having a conversation with the brand also. The other one is what we call content conversations. For example, if you put up like a YouTube post or you put up a blog post, how many comments do you get? And what's your cost per comment or cost per conversation? And then you want to measure this back to your traditional level, which brings me to another metric called social brand mentions, meaning to say how many people are talking about your brand in their social profiles. For example, in my own Facebook profile, I will consistently talk about a few brands which I am a fan of. For example, Apple. For example, Subway. For example, McDonald's or Burger King. No, I don't really eat McDonald's or Burger King. But those are the brands which essentially people are talking about this, and you want to track that. And how do you track that? Based on a few social media listening tools like ThoughtBuzz, for example, or Meltwater. And if you want to have a free tool of the amount of people talking about your brand online, go to this website, and you might want to write this down, this website called socialmention.com. That's social mention, mention.com. So essentially, it's like the Google equivalent for social media. How many people have been talking about your brand on the social media space? For example, say if I am Maxis, and then I want to know how many people have been talking about Maxis in this particular month of November. So in the month of November, I go to social mention, I type in Maxis, I can essentially see everybody around the world, or even geographically in Malaysia, how many people in Malaysia are talking about Maxis online in their Facebook profile, on their Twitter profile, on forums, on blogs, and whatnot. For example, this is one of our clients, FreshCon again. We wanted to find out what are generally people talking about FreshCon. The number of buzz about FreshCon online. So people are talking about FreshCon on Twitter, people are talking about FreshCon on Facebook, people are talking about FreshCon on YouTube. And coming back to measure everything on the traditional level, like I said, measure everything back to your traditional level, and we have this measurement called cost per engagement or cost per conversation. So what does cost per conversation mean? This is one of our clients. Again, you want to measure throughout what other activation campaigns are they doing, and what's the cost of running this activation campaign, and then the total reach. Reach meaning to say how many people have you reached out to by doing this one activation campaign. And I'm not going to lie, it's going to be tough work. But you are able, if you're going to measure all of these things, you will know what's going to work for you and how do you improve your future marketing campaigns from there. And then the same thing you want to measure on your Facebook. Like what's your PTAT score? Or number of conversations you have on your Facebook page by the end of the month. So once you measure this, measure it across all your marketing channels, and for that you have your cost per engagement. Right, so that is essentially what we call engagement, meaning to say people understanding about your brand's products, right? So coming back to the last phase of brand awareness is what we call influence. So by definition, can anybody share with me what does influence mean? Anyone? Hello? Are we here? Can anybody share with me what's the definition of influence?
You can't influence me to tell you what it means.
I can't influence to tell you what it means, of what influence means.
Influence actually means that, getting somebody else to do something by using your words.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what John said. So John said influence means getting somebody to tell you what you want them to do. Essentially, right? That's the essence of what you're communicating. So that same space of influence. So when somebody is a strong brand supporter, and all of us here are strong brand supporters of at least something, right? Like, for example, Apple would be one of the brands that I'm really strongly supportive of. even Samsung for mobile phones, but for laptops, I will be a strong brand supporter of Apple. So if anybody in the social media space, if they were to ask a question on their Facebook profile, like, I'm going to buy a laptop, which brand should I buy? And then people will say Samsung, Acer, Lenovo. Some people will say Apple. So if I say Apple, I want to measure at the end of the month, how many positive social brand mentions have I had? That means recommendations. And how do you measure that? Based on the number of people talking positively. So I don't have so much time to go through into details, but essentially going back to my earlier of what I shared of using social media listening tools like social mention, for example, I'm able to see how many positive brand mentions are there. So for example, like Amazon, I want to measure by the end of the month how many positive social brand mentions are there of Amazon. So maybe in November I have 200 positive social brand mentions, and then the next month, because of my marketing campaign on Facebook, for example, I realized I have 300 positive social brand mentions. Then I know my marketing campaign is worth the ROI. So this is a case study of FreshCon. When we did a social media analysis, the amount of people talking about FreshCon contact lenses, these are people talking about who are positive. So most of them are, when they talk about FreshCon, they talk about purchase intention. That means before they buy, they're saying that they want to buy FreshCon. And most of them are positive. And then you want to go people are talking about the colors of FreshCon products, because FreshCon sell contact lenses in various colors. And then they're also talking about makeup. And some of them are positive, some of them are neutral, some of them are negative. But essentially, if I am influencing my consumers, I want to know who's positive, who's talking positively about my brand. And then next, one of our favorite metrics we use is called category share of voice. So category share of voice essentially is to find out how many people are talking about my brand as compared to my competitors. So for example, over here is one of what we did for Coty, which owns brands such as Marc Jacobs and a few other brands. So they wanted to find out like how many people are talking positively about Marc Jacobs as compared to their competitors like CK, Dior, and Chanel. So you can see the colors here, like Chanel was owning most of the market share. And this is on a daily basis, but if I put it by the end of the month, I would see that most people, when they talk about Chanel, most people when they talk about fragrances, they talk about Chanel the most, followed by Marc Jacobs. So then they would know in future of their marketing, when they do any marketing campaigns, they realize that, hey, they need to focus more and beat their competitors. And one of the competitors they're lacking behind is Chanel. And this is specifically talking about fragrances only. Not about bags, not about nothing else, but fragrances. And then next is what we call category share of search. That means category share of search basically means like how many, it's like share of voice, like how many people on the social media space are talking about this brand as compared to the other brands. Share of search means at the end of the month, how many people are talking about my brand, how many people are searching for my brand on Google as compared to other brands on Google. Right? So for example, I could be searching for Marc Jacobs, I could be searching for Dior or all other fancy luxury fragrances brands. And the reason why I'm using this metric is because this company called Group M did a study that if consumers are connected with you on social media, the likelihood of them searching for your brand name on Google is 2.8 times higher if they're connected with you on social. And one mental model of marketing we use is called the zero moment of truth. Essentially what the zero moment of truth means is if they see your ad, which is a stimulus, the zero moment of truth means when they search for you on Google, when they go to your Facebook page, for example. So you want to measure a category share of search. And how you do that is by going to this website, google.com/insights. And then you type in your brand name over here versus your competitors. And over time, you want to measure who's winning the war. Or who's having the most market share in terms of category share of search. So as you can see here, if you know that your social media campaign is doing well, then people would naturally be searching more for you on Google. And you can see it throughout the whole graph. Freshcon versus their toughest competitor, which is AccuView, has been very closely. It's a closely fought battle. Because both brands are extremely active on social media. So that, in short, is how we measure brand awareness for social media ROI. And coming back to your next aim. So assuming once you are a really, really big brand already, you don't need brand awareness. You have about 50,000 fans or about 5,000 fans or 1,000 fans, for example. Now you want to look at real sales. How do you measure sales from social media? And sometimes it doesn't mean that you have to actually measure sales. You can measure actions taken, which is what I'm going to talk about first, conversions. Because having 1,000 fans on your Facebook page is nice, having the amount of conversations on your Facebook page is nice, but how do you lead everything back to actual business numbers? So one metric we use is called sales intended traffic from your social equities. So social equities meaning your Facebook pages, your YouTube channel, and all that. And for this, and sales intended traffic means those visitors who come to your website and they know they are interested in finding out more about your products and services. For example, most of us are coming from the e-commerce background, yes? Yes? Right? So if you come from an e-commerce background, if people are at your products page, would that mean that the likelihood of them buying would be relatively high versus a visitor who is in your About Us page? Yeah? So you want to measure the amount of traffic that you get on your Google Analytics. And if you don't have Google Analytics, who don't have Google Analytics installed? Oh! You break the holy grail. Right? So install Google Analytics and go to this tool called Visitors Flow. Right? Google Analytics is free, by the way. And you want to measure, it's not so clear on the projector screen, but you want to see people coming from Facebook, for example. How many of them are going to your other pages? Like your sales-related pages, like your product pages or your checkout pages. You want to measure actual conversion numbers from Facebook versus your other channels of traffic. For example, your direct traffic, what's your conversion numbers from direct traffic? Your traffic from Facebook, what's the conversion number? Traffic from YouTube, what's the conversion number? So from there, you get a rough sensing of your actual sales figures from your social equities. And then next is cost per visitor. That means calculating your total cost per visitor is basically your total amount of money spent on your social media campaigns, which is your ad spend on Facebook, for example. Like if you buy YouTube ads, how many new subscribers do you have? Or you buy Facebook ads, how many new fans do you have, right? So your total amount of money spent to grow your social equities, I mean your followers, your subscribers, plus your total amount of money spent to engage them. So for example, how much, sometimes it's free, right? Because engaging, it's your time. So your time doesn't really have a money to it. But if you want to put $1 to it, like if you're hiring an agency, you want to find out what's your cost for content management, for example. Divide by total number of visitors on sales-related pages. So from there you have what we call a cost per visitor. Right, and then next another metric you use is called cost per action. I'm a cost per something guy. So cost per action meaning to say that the actions taken on your website. So for example, if you're going to have an event launch, you want to measure your number of RSVPs, and then you want to measure your cost per RSVP. That means your total amount of money spent on social media divided by number of RSVPs that you've gotten. Or phone call inquiries. So for phone call inquiries, there's toll-free forwarding numbers. So you want to measure what's the amount of phone calls that you've gotten, and where are the phone calls coming from? Are they coming from Facebook? Are they coming from Twitter? Are they coming from YouTube? Or are they coming from your other traditional marketing campaigns? Because if traditional works for you versus and it's more effective than social, then of course you want to continue with traditional. But if you realize there's a more effective and leverageable way of doing your marketing, like social media, then you want to use social media and you want to continue it. You want to spend more of your A&P budget into social media. So there's other metrics called cost, sign-up cost or cost per donation for those who are running charity organizations, which I don't think any of us here are running. So then there's conversions. And then last is actual sales numbers. So how do you measure sales from social media? There are two ways. Actual sales numbers. One is you put out what we call social only offer redemptions. So how many of you heard of Facebook offers? Nobody heard of Facebook offers? Oh my, we got a caveman crowd. Right, so social offers on Facebook, if you are listed as a retail or e-commerce page, you can put up exclusive voucher. Like say, you can generate a voucher code from your e-commerce site, and then the voucher code could be ABCDE, right? And then, for example, this is one of our clients. Again, can't see it very clearly, but you can see a voucher code here. So this voucher code is only exclusive on Facebook. That means you only publish it on Facebook. And once you publish it on Facebook, then you want to measure at the end of the month or at the end of your expiry of voucher code, how many redemptions are there. And then from there, you can actually measure your sales numbers. The other one is what we call social connectivity of customers. And this is quite maybe a little bit too far-fetched for you, but I'm sharing this with you because it's a really, this metric, you can use it already essentially, and that's why we're sharing it with you. Although it's costly to measure this. And this is what we use, how we measure this is through what we call a social CRM. Meaning to say that the amount of fans on your Facebook fan page, for example, if you have 10,000 fans, you want to link this up with your CRM software. And for every customer, like John, for example, right? And you want to measure like how much conversations you've had with him on your Facebook page versus amount of conversations you've had on your Facebook page and how much money you've actually spent in actual dollars and cents at your retail store. So you want to track all the way back. And this is easily achievable if you are in the e-commerce industry because you can track the person, that means the name, the email address of that customer, and you can load it up in your social CRM software, assuming that he used the same email. So for example, john@abc.com is in your email database or in your CRM database, right? You port it over to your what we call social CRM, like SCRM, and then john@abc.com has like, assuming he's a Facebook fan, he's a fan of your Facebook page, and you want to look at amount of conversations you've had with John on your Facebook page, and how long he's been a fan and all those. And all this is trackable already with tools like, you might want to write the name of these tools down, called JitterJam, JITTERJAM. Or there's a really, really affordable Facebook CRM tool called Agora Pulse. I'm recommending all of these tools not because I gain a commission, I don't earn a single cent. I hope I do. But I really, really believe in all of this software. I don't make a single cent for promoting all of this software. So the other tool is called Agora Pulse, AGORA. Sorry? Yeah, so JitterJam, JITTERJAM, M for Malaysia. And the other tool, which is very affordable, is called Agora Pulse. Called, ready, pencils? This is really affordable. AGORAPULSE. Agora Pulse. So that's a Facebook CRM software which you can measure all of your fans. You can essentially track all 1,000 of your fans. And then if you measure it offline, measure it based on your e-commerce, like Magento software or whatever, you can actually see the amount of money spent. So if your customer, of this John, for example, who is your customer, if he spends, if his customer value is $200, you want to see how engaging is he on your Facebook page. So that's sales, essentially, how we measure actual sales numbers. And then last is consumer retention. So assuming now your brand awareness, your sales is doing well, last you want to measure is called consumer retention, or commonly known as loyalty. So how do you measure consumer retention? One is number of actions taken from your top engaged users. What does this mean? For example, this. It's a screenshot from Agora Pulse. And this is how the Facebook CRM software looks like. So this brand here is one of our Malaysian clients called Kiddy. They sell baby strollers. So over here, at the end of every month, I'm able to see who are my top most engaged fans. That means to say when I publish content, like a post for example, at the end of the month, who are the top most, like who writes on my wall the most, who comment on my stuff the most, who like on every single content that I put up. And then from there, I want to track at the back end of my e-commerce site. Is this guy a good customer? And then if I know all of these are my top engaged fans, if I have a brand advocacy program, or if I'm going to do any focus group, or if I need to talk to anybody to do any influencer campaign, I know that all these guys will be very, very willing to support me. And this is essentially what Kiddy did as well. Because we sent him this whole list, and they started inviting all of these people to their experience center in Mid-Valley area. And then the other way to measure consumer retention is what we call a Net Promoter Score, NPS. Show of hands, how many of you have heard of this metric? NPS, right, John? It's very commonly used in the US. And how you calculate this is you ask them one simple question. You can do an email blast to them, and you ask them one simple question. And this simple question is, how likely is it that you would recommend our product or our brand or a company to a friend or a colleague? And what you do is whatever answers that come in, right? So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the extremely likely, 0 meaning not likely at all. So you take your percentage of promoters of 9 and 10s divided by the detractors who people say 0 to 6. So people who say 0 to 6 are not likely to recommend your brand. 7 to 8 will be like passive. But people who say 9 and 10, like, wow, I'm really, really ready to recommend like your software or your product to my friends because I really believe in it. Yeah, like customer service is so good, for example, or your product is so good, then they want to share it with their friends. For example, this was used on Agoda. How many of you book on your hotels on Agoda? Right? Did they ask you this question? Yes? So this is essentially, this is how they use the NPS. How likely is it that you recommend the website to a friend or a colleague? So 0 to 10. And then from there, they will calculate. And from there, at the back end, I'm assuming they also know where you come from, like what kind of traffic source is the most effective from them. And then the other few metrics would be your average consumer value of socially connected consumers. So again, going back to your social CRM, you want to measure your lifetime customer value from people who are connected with you on your social equities. For example, your Facebook fans. What's the value? What's the total sales value they've spent on your e-commerce site, right? And then next, this is not so relevant. More relevant for the bigger brands, like amount of customer service issues handled on your Facebook page or on your Twitter profile, on your YouTube profile, on your blog, for example. And then you want to compare it with your traditional customer service center. What's your cost per ticket? So the last brings me to my next metric, cost per customer service issue handled, right? And again, this brings me back to the whole social media ROI. I've covered all 24 metrics, but now that I've given you 24 metrics, it goes back to your objective again. Now that all of you are on social media, most of your brands are on social media, you want to measure, you want to know what is the one objective that you want to achieve in your next 3 months. Because if I give you 24 metrics, I'm not asking you to use all 24 metrics to measure your campaign. That's crazy, right? There's a lot of Excel sheets that you're going to use. Right? So the secret is pick 3 metrics and measure it for at least 3 months before you set a new objective again. As simple as this. So I've given you 24 metrics. You can use any one of them based on your objective, and make sure your objective is clear. If it's brand awareness, don't say that you're going to use Facebook likes and category share of voice, for example, because these are two different objectives. If you're going to use brand awareness, be clear. Is it going to be exposure? Is it going to be engagement? Or is it going to be influence? If it's going to be influence, there are 3 metrics to use. Just use it and measure it across 3 months. And that's how you measure social media ROI. And if you like, I have about, before I end my presentation, I have about 30 minutes. And we can discuss this. You just pass me your name card. I'll be happy to arrange a 1-hour strategy session with you after this call. After this session, and we can arrange it. Because I've only covered one part of the C-Cube system. There are essentially 8 other parts that I can cover on social media ROI and how to execute your campaign, all in a step-by-step framework. So with that, I will end my presentation, and if you'd like to have any questions, I'll be outside and I'll be happy to arrange a 1-hour strategy discussion with you. And I'd like to thank my partner, and you can feel free to approach my partner Clement as well, over there, and we'd be happy to discuss this with you. All right? So I hope you benefited for this campaign. I've got about half an hour to talk to any of you before we have to catch our coach back to Singapore again. So that's it. Thank you very much.